Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite_UK. Let's explore leadership, change, and team spirit together. Sign up now.
I have noticed that change always comes hand in hand with uncertainty. When a new coach like Dave Rennie takes over a team, especially following a deeply involved period under Scott Robertson, not only do tactics change, but the team culture can also be affected. I believe this is a sensitive moment, because the team not only needs to adapt to a new style of play, but also to redefine leadership roles, internal trust, and how they see themselves. In that context, Scott Barrett, the current captain, stood out to me. I sensed a calmness in the way he shared his first conversation with Rennie. There was no excessive worry, nor a firm assertion about his future. Instead, there was an open, waiting, and adaptable attitude. I see this as a hallmark of a mature leader, not clinging to a position, but focusing on responsibility and personal preparation. This made me reflect deeply on the concept of true leadership. A leader is not someone who merely holds a title, but someone who can maintain stability and inspire others even when everything around them is changing.
Scott Barrett, whether he continues as captain or not, demonstrates this quality through his focus on recovery and preparation for matches. I learned that a person's value lies not in their title, but in how they act when that title could change at any moment. I also took note of names like R.D. Savia, Geordie Barrett, and Cody Taylor, experienced players who have also held leadership roles in the team. I realized that a strong team doesn't rely on a single individual, but on a multi-layered leadership system. This is much like in life. An organization, a group, or even a family needs multiple people sharing responsibility. It cannot depend on one person alone. I was particularly impressed by Barrett's acknowledgement that there hasn't been a specific discussion with Rennie about the captaincy. Instead of worrying or speculating, he chooses to wait and trust the process. I see this as an important lesson in patience. In an era when people often want immediate answers, accepting uncertainty while maintaining focus is far from easy.
When I think about Dave Rennie's coaching style, particularly the influence of Wayne Smith and how he built the Chiefs, I sense that every coach carries a personal imprint. I believe this applies to all areas of life. Everyone has their own way of working, their own philosophy, and when they enter a new environment, they leave their mark, whether big or small. However, what makes me reflect even more is how a group receives that imprint. A team like the All Blacks is not just a sports team. It is a cultural symbol of New Zealand. Therefore, any change must balance preserving identity with innovating to grow. I realize this is also a challenge every individual faces, how to change without losing oneself. I think such change can bring both hope and anxiety. Fans always want their team to win, but they're also emotionally attached to people and familiar styles. I feel the key is learning to accept change as an inevitable part of growth. Without change, there can be no progress. Another point that struck me was Barrett describing Rennie as a sharp coach. The word implies more than just expertise. It suggests the ability to observe, analyze, and make decisions.
I believe in any field, being sharp is an important quality. It allows one to notice things others might miss, and, from there, create a difference. Reflecting on myself, I realize that I, too, am going through transition phases in life, even if they are not as grand as a national team. It might be changes in work, relationships, or how I see the world. I have learned that instead of fearing change, I need to adapt, maintain core values, and always prepare for new opportunities. The lesson for me is, focus on what I can control. Scott Barrett cannot decide whether he will remain captain, but he can decide how he trains, recovers, and contributes to the team. I, too, cannot control every circumstance. But I can control my attitude and actions. A great team, like the All Blacks, has gone through many highs and lows, yet they always know how to regenerate and come back stronger. I believe fans should not only support the team when it wins, but also remain patient and engaged during periods of transition. Ultimately, I feel that the most important thing is not who will become the next captain, but how the team rebuilds trust and cohesion. A team is truly strong only when its members trust each other and work toward a common goal. This principle applies not only in sports, but in all areas of life.
Thank you for joining Scrum Masters Elite_UK. Embrace change and lead through action.